So magic has been a very recurring theme in my life, and it's taken me almost 39 years to really realize just how much and in how many forms. When I got my first job out of college, I worked at the most magical place on earth. Anybody know what that is? Disney World, right? And the magic of Disney, I soon realized, but it took me over 10 years, was that it's not in the rides and it's not in the theme parks that Disney created. It's the fact that Disney built his empire during the Great Depression using a strategy that he repeated throughout his years, and after he died, it's lasted, and it lasts to this day. He's created dreams into reality. Now, if you've ever had a dream that you've tried to create, to make real, and it's slipped through your fingers, or you've gotten confused or twisted or just unsure of how to make it happen, you'll know just how big of a challenge that can be. In fact, what I'd like you to do is take your hands out and stare at your palms for just 1 second. Just follow my directions exactly. Take your hands and put them thumbs down, just like this. Now take your right hand and reach over your left and then clasp them just like this. Good job. Now in just 1 second, we're going to turn just gently to the left. And we should be just like this. Well, no, apparently we did the exact same thing, but we got a different result. Was that magic? Did I know something you didn't? Did I do something you may not have done? Well, oftentimes, as in a magic trick, just like in real life, the simplest technique is the key to making everything work. Disney found this out, and he created a strategy that I'm going to share with you today, and I'm hoping that by the end of this, you'll be able to use it in your life to create magic of your own. Now, those dreams that I assume every one of us has, they have a life. They set you on fire. Think about the last time that you had something you wanted to accomplish, and you could see it really vividly, and you were excited. And maybe you rushed out to tell a family member, a parent, a friend, a spouse. Have you ever met resistance? Has anybody ever told you, you can't do that because of this, because of that? That won't work. Even worse, have you ever told yourself that? Have you ever had a dream and go, man, this would be so awesome to do, and I can't wait to get started with it. It won't work because I got to do that. It's not going to work for me. Everybody faces that inner critic. And a lot of people will tell you that silence that inner critic, do it anyway. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to base it on higher authority, Walt, not to silence that inner critic, to give him his voice and to give it in a way that you've never done it before, but it'll make all the difference in the world. See, when I was a child, my dad was the worst critic, and he was always telling me why I couldn't do things and what was not going to work and the risks that I was going to take and why I would fail. And I kind of did it anyway. I just silenced him. Dad, I'm going to do it anyway. And a lot of times I did fail. He was right. But a few times it worked. 10 years later, I read a book, and it immediately shocked me back into the days I worked at Disney. I saw something really weird that the Imagineers were doing when I was in the Imagineering department. And what I noticed is that the Imagineers, who are responsible for making everything happen at Disney World, the most creative people probably on the planet, would go into a room, into a meeting room, and they'd have a meeting over there, and then they'd all get up in unison and walk over to the other room. And I was a little financial guy. I was never really a part of the Imagineers, but I was watching it from the third-party perspective, and then they'd get to another room. There were 3 offices, and each were decorated totally different. I had no idea what they were doing. I didn't ask. I was working in my numbers. 10 years later, I read a book by Robert Dilts, and he's a very famous expert in neurolinguistic programming who has modeled really successful geniuses throughout history, and one of those was Walt Disney. And he re-examined what Disney did early in his life and throughout his career to create reality out of dreams. And it happened to be really simple. Walt realized that there's 3 voices in our head in life that we have to deal with whenever a creative project comes up, whenever there's a dream that we want to. There's the dreamer personality. We've got the dreamer over here. He sees everything bright and big, and this is what I want to do. And then there's the realist, the person who has to make it happen, who has to plan it out. And in fact, Walt had offices for these two perspectives. He calls them, or Robert Dilts called them perceptual positions. these two offices, the dreamer office. There's the realist office. The dreamer office is bright and full of cartoons and full of no real chairs in there. I mean, it's pretty much standing room only. The realist office is storyboards, and it's where you plan things out, and it's where you do it. The third office was the critic's office, sometimes referred to as the spoiler. Now that office was plain Jane. You have to walk in, you sit down, and that's where the real magic happened. I'll explain that. What Walt realized was that in our own lives, when we come up with an idea and we decide this would be a great idea, and that's one voice talking to us, and then the next voice is thinking, okay, well, what do I have to do to make that happen? And then the other, right when we're starting to think about that, the critic says, you can't do that for this reason, that reason. You don't have enough money. You're not smart enough. You've got a family. You can't take care of yourself. But I want to do it. But how would I do it? And it's all happening at once. And it's as if three people on all sides of you are just screaming at the top of their lungs. And what we usually do is one of two things. We either tell the critic, because he's no fun to hang out with, right? We tell him, go over there, shut up, I'm going to do it anyway. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that critic had a good point, and we shut him up. Sometimes we just throw them all away, and we go, I can't take this noise, I'm leaving, and you let that dream die. If you've ever let a dream die, or if you've ever let a critic stop you, you'll know how much it hurts. What Walt realized is that if we give every single one of those voices its voice, its time on stage to shine with no interruption from the other ones, we'll be able to get the full picture a lot clearer. So what Walt would do is he would take all of the Imagineers into one of the offices and he'd say, guys, all we're going to do is imagine the art of the possible. What can we build? Don't think about how we're going to do it. Don't think about if we have enough money or not. Just dream. What is the coolest ride? What is the coolest cartoon that we can create? Let's have fun. And when they had that dream, they were like, you guys feel good? He would walk them all into the storyboard room where the realist takes over and the doer, and they storyboard it out sequentially, linearly. What has to happen in order to make that dream a reality? No critiques. That comes next. And it's so important that you shift your perception about what a critic's job really is. It's not to squash your dreams. If it's a parent saying, you can't do that. If it's yourself saying, there's no way I can do that. It's not because it's this evil, dream-crushing monster. It's because that critic has a job, and that job is to ensure that you're covering all your bases, to make sure that you don't fail, that you get your dream despite all of the odds stacked against you. And he's there to take a look and see what is missing so that you can get what you're setting out to. And we don't give him time. He's like, look, I've got something valuable to offer, but you won't listen. Do it yourself. Right? But what happens when we give them, the critics, ourselves, that time? We often get some of the most amazing insights. If you've ever watched American Idol, who's the most famous judge? Simon Cowell, or at least he was. He was also the most critical. He was mean. But when Simon told you you're good at what you did, and he said, I've got nothing critical to say, it meant so much more. Because the critic has a role. It's to make you better and to make sure that you don't miss anything. So how do you use this in your own life? Yes, Walt built an empire on it, and they do it to this day. It's been one of the secret traditions that very few people know about. Well, in your own life, let's say you've got a dream you want to accomplish. And I'm going to go on a wild guess here and imagine that each one of you do have something you'd like to accomplish in this life. So just for a second, I would like you to imagine what that is. We're actually going to go through an exercise that you can use as well. And this is going to be participation here. So it's very important that you adopt the physiology, because we don't have a room. You could set up rooms in your house. We can do this anywhere. So think of something right now in your head that you want to accomplish in life. It can be anything. It can be little, it can be huge. I want you to sit forward in your chair. You can stand up if you want. If you want to really get the feel. This is the dreamer physiology. You're looking like this. You're looking up. And imagine there's a big movie screen playing just for you, and it's playing out the image of your dream as if it's already happened. And it's bright, and it's vivid, and it's musical, and it's colorful. And I want you to sit forward. Uncross your legs, please. Sit forward. And just really look up. Smile. Look up. Don't look down. Just imagine. See it all happen. Can you see the dream? Good. Now what I want you to do is sit there, sit up straight, maybe put your hands on your hips. If you're standing, you can do this. It's a very powerful position. And what you're doing is you're imagining what steps you may have to take in order to accomplish those. Don't add any more dreams to it. Don't say why you can't. Just think, okay, I want to create a business. What's the first thing I need to do? Well, I need to do a market analysis. I need to set up an LLC. I need to do this. I need to talk to people. Okay, boom, boom, boom. It's linear. It's what has to be done. Right? Now we're going to give the critic his role, because we got the dream and we know a few steps, but we don't know if they're good steps and we don't know if the dream's worth dreaming. So I step over into the critic's office, and I want you to make very note that I'm moving from one place to the other. These are my offices, and it's very important that you move out of that place, because I don't want you to be criticizing the place that you're dreaming in. I want you to, if you're sitting there, I want you to cross your arms like this, maybe put your hand up on your chin, and I want you to maybe sit back and just maybe furrow your brow, right? And I want you to think about, what's missing? What am I missing? What could go wrong? Right? You see that? Okay, now keep this physiology, and for just a moment, I want you to, without changing your physiology, try to dream again. Try to dream big. Try to make that real. Furrow your brow. Make it happen in the critic's office right here. Is it a little bit harder to picture that dream? Can't do it. It's very important that when we integrate all of our senses and all of our being into each one of the areas, it makes it more real and it more fully develops it out. Don't dream like this. If you catch yourself, man, I really like to, build that business. I really like to write that damn book. What's the plot going to be? No, get over here and get into it and see what is possible, what could happen. And then see what you have to do to make it happen. And then come over here. And this is the big shift. I'm in the critic's office. Your two voices are still over here. Look at that critic and say, hey man, it's your turn. Go. And then take notes. And when he's done saying, this is what you're missing, guys, have you thought that you got a family to feed? You can't just move away. You've got a sick mother in town. You want to move out to Hawaii and live on the beach, but people need you. What are you going to do about that? By the way, it's not the critic's job to answer it. He just voices his opinion. You go back into the dreamer and okay, well, I wonder if mom would like to live in Maui. Can I afford that? Well, she would live here. If I lived in Maui and she lived here, that'd be really cool. How do I do that? Okay, well, I would have to do this. I'd have to shuffle some money. I could sell some things. I could make it happen. I got nothing against that. Go for it. When the critic says go for it, nothing can stop you. So now, going forward in your life, the next time you're coming up with a project, an idea, a creative endeavor, a business, anything, whether it's big or small, go through this process. Do it in your house. Lay out places on the floor and do this exercise. If you have a business partner, team members, explain to them the role of the dreamer, the realist, and the critic, and how they all should have their place on stage. And tell them, look, I've got this idea, and when I first tell you, I want you to just refrain from criticizing it for a minute. There's a million ways it won't happen and reasons. But I just want to just work with you and have fun and just see what could happen. And then after that, we'll figure out how to do it. Can you do that with me? And then bring them along with you and make sure. Pretty soon they'll know what you're doing. If you give them the book to read, if you really explain what you're doing, they'll be like, hey man, let's get in critical stage. Let's be realists here. No, get out of the dreamer stage. Let's be realists. If you're married, you got a wife or a husband, you're like, well, I want to do this. Dream together. Plan together. Critique it together. Because all too often we say, I want to do this. Honey, you can't do that. I'm not going to let you, blah, 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 blah. And it causes so much conflict perpetually just because it's everybody yelling at each other at once. I use this in a business right after I read this book, and I was like, this is amazing. I've been studying NLP and neuro-linguistic programming, and it's like, this is amazing. And one of my partners or one of my friends in the class and we thought, let's create a information product and sell it online. And should we sell a course on how to use magic tricks, bar tricks, maybe to impress girls? That would never work. Well, wait a minute, let's dream. What could happen? How do we do it? Is there any reason it wouldn't work? Well, we satisfied all three. We went through this process. And at the end of the day, the critics said, go for it. We did. And magic, once again, transformed my life. I think it can transform yours if you give it a chance.